At harm. I am Supergirl.
Hey guys, just finished watching Supergirl, Season 4, Episode 22, The Quest for Peace. Interesting episode and funny title, obviously, referencing the Superman movie that Lex Luthor was already in there. I forget what's his name, but John Cryer was already in and stuff. But it was really an interesting ending of a season and setting up, some stuff. And so we start off this episode with, Lex Springs kind of casting out to attack the U.S. and he stops them all by himself and stuff, so he can make himself out to be the hero. And it's revealed that the Red Daughter, who we thought was dead or was kind of shown as being dead on TV, she wasn't really dead, at least not yet type thing. So that was kind of interesting there. We see that Lex ends up taking Lockwood's job as as head of alien affairs for the president and stuff. So that was kind of interesting there. So he ends up making, I don't know why he did that without actually kind of destroying Lockwood first, because he knows that Lockwood at this point has powers and all that stuff, and I guess he's not afraid of Lockwood, but it's just kind of like, I would have gotten rid of Lockwood first, killed him off, and then killed him, and then before you go ahead and, take his job and make him want to go after you, It just seems a little bit like of a something that could have gone wrong in his plan, but his plan was just way too big to really care about every little detail, right? He had bigger things to worry about. So that was kind of interesting there for his part. We see that John and Dreamer end up we left them in the last episode where Brainiac had kind of left them get captured by Lex's goons and stuff, so they could be brought to wherever all the aliens are being brought to, so they could be used for whatever Lex Luthor was using them, because Lockwood was collecting these aliens and were being sent off to use by Lex Luthor and stuff, and so he let them go, and they were there, doing some stuff, working on Chili Island or whatever, and it was just kind of the way they just broke out and took down the guards was so easy and stupid. It's just kind of like, why did John Jones and Dreamer need to be there? They didn't have their powers. They didn't have anything. Everyone else on there, because they were on Chili Island with all the dampeners around the island, none of the aliens had power. So it's just like, why did they need John Jones and Dreamer to do that? Why didn't they break out earlier if it was so easy for them to get out? The way they did it is just kind of, they made a fake fight and they just kind of stormed the guards and they got out. And there was no proof, they didn't show that, John Jones is, DEO agent, has been a DEO agent for years, he knows how to fight, even without powers and all that stuff. There was nothing like that showed that, they needed specifically him. It was just kind of like, they had to just wait, plot reasons why they got out that easily. It was just kind of a bit silly and too easy as how they kind of got away from those guards and took over the Shelly Island type thing, which is kind of silly. We see Lex had a plan to shoot down, Argo City, killing Superman. At least that's what he wanted to kill Superman. But we also know that Lois Lane is there, pregnant with his child and stuff. So I think that's going to be interesting to see as to where things go with that. Surprised that he wasn't in this episode, but I guess there was so much in here. I'm glad we didn't have Superman there, and he should be there for a good while, right? I guess 9 months. I guess. So that's going to be interesting to see as to where things go with him. When does he come back? Does he come back for, I've got to try hard to remember as to when he left and how many months it's been. I think it'd be interesting to get that, maybe get at that in the beginning of next season, is to see as to how many months it's been since Superman's been gone. How long does he have to be there? He's there so that Lois Lane can give birth to the child without it, killing her on his way out. A kick would literally just kill her, right? He would try to kick his way out, and at least on a yellow sun, right? That would be kind of too dangerous. So I think that's going to be interesting to see as to whether or not he's going to be part of the crossover. I'd imagine he would be, with it being 5 hours long crossover next season. It would be interesting to have him there, even if we don't have Lois Lane. Have him there, she gives birth just before, and then he shows up, right, just in time to come and help. So I think that could be something interesting to see. I mean, it looks like Monitor's doing stuff, so we'll have to wait and see as to where if he goes to get her. So we see all these fight scenes here and there are just so bad. There were fight scenes between Supergirl and Lex Luthor and Lockwood and we had Lockwood and Alex and Jimmy Olsen and stuff. It was just kind of so silly. I mean, you had these goons that were supposedly, that Lockwood said they were all kind of charged up in superpowers, which Lockwood was charged up and he was giving Supergirl a little bit of a run for his money, at least able to punch her to the point where it was doing something. It wasn't just kind of nothing for her. It was actually kind of, able to punch her and hurt her a little bit. And Alex was fighting a same type of character, and they never really explained as to, okay, maybe I could see, obviously Lockwood would kind of give himself a little bit more stuff, so he might be a little bit more powerful, but, Alex, someone who's able to knock Supergirl down shouldn't be able to be taken down by Alex without powers, with just these taser batons, which, were kind of a bit silly. So it didn't make sense that she was able to take these goons down with that. But the others were fighting, fighting Jimmy Olsen with, who also has the same powers and stuff as Lockwood, and should have the same amount of power, since he's been, being controlled and experimented on by Lena and her mother type thing to improve it type thing. So it's not killing him as often, right? So I think that was just kind of inconsistent with those goons there, and the fighting and just the actual choreography for the fighting was just really kind of terrible and bad and kind of not interesting whatsoever, kind of god awful. The Red Daughter dies, and Supergirl ends up absorbing her. Like, she jumps in and saves Supergirl from a kryptonite blast by Lex Luthor and stuff, and it was just it was a bit weird that how she absorbed her, and I understand what they were trying to do there, I guess, but what I would have done is just have her die, the body die, her die, but Supergirl absorb the sunlight inside her. She's also a Kryptonian, she's also another battery. It's just kind of absorbing stuff, and what it could have done is redone the scene from last episode where she was absorbing the sunlight from the grass and all that stuff, but maybe by touching her, Supergirl could have been absorbing the sunlight from her body, and she was dying, no longer able to pull sunlight, right? Since she's a kind of a clone, she wasn't able to kind of fully restore herself with sunlight like Supergirl was. She's not really the original, right? And I think that could be something they could have done there, instead of her whole body disappearing into her, which made no sense. They could have just had her, pass out and just kind of the body still being there, but sucked out, and Supergirl drains her from the sun energy, right? Solar rays and stuff. We see Lena ends up shooting Lex at the end of this episode, so that was kind of interesting. And then Lex, just as he dies, he ends up showing Lena that Kara is Supergirl, and that's where we end with that. Supergirl, she ends up later on meeting her, and kind of, I thought she was going to say, oh, Supergirl is Kara, you're Supergirl, because everyone else there knew that Kara was Supergirl except for Jimmy Olsen's sister, which, Lena didn't really know. Lena just knew that everyone she knew has been lying to her that Kara is not Supergirl type thing. So I think that would have been interesting to see her show up there and just blurt it out to everyone in a fit of rage, and then not know that she didn't know that Jimmy Olsen's sister didn't know, and that could have been interesting dealing with that kind of fallout. But at the same time, every time someone finds out, there's never been any fallout in this show, which is kind of annoying. So hopefully they can build some kind of strife into this, and kind of the whole strife of not knowing versus knowing, finding out. That's something that they used to play with a lot over on Smallville. The torturing of telling and not telling and all that stuff. Whereas here, they just kind of tell people and no one ever does anything. Nothing ever happened on all of these shows. Flash, Arrow, all of them. There's no really secret identities, which is kind of annoying. And it was the one person left with Lena. So it's going to be interesting to see as to where things go with this. Hopefully it affects the relationship or something like that. And we get to see them kind of affect the relationship up until the crossover. And we can see their relationship kind of being rocky and rough until the big crossover where they're forced to kind of work together to save the multiverse type thing. I think that could be really interesting. And speaking of the multiverse, we end this with the Monitor showing up, and it's another Green Martian type thing. So I really don't know what's going on with all this. All this setup here is kind of getting a bit confusing with the Monitor and Eve Tessmacher and all that stuff. I don't know. I've listened to the audiobook or the graphic audiobook of the story a few times and stuff, and definitely makes me want to re-listen to that to get back into watching and reading the story of the Crisis on Infinite Earth and stuff. But I definitely can't wait to see as to where things go. So I'll definitely be checking out a few things online as to what this kind of means and stuff. Because I'm really not entirely sure as to what this teasing exactly means for the crossover coming up with the Monitor stuff. But it does seem to me that it looks like Supergirl and Arrow are obviously going to be part of big key parts of the next crossover, because we see the Monitor there. I haven't seen yet the last episode of A Legend of Tomorrow, so we'll have to wait and see if there's a teaser to that in there, if it ends with something like that, if the Monitor shows up there. But he wasn't in the end of the last episode of The Flash, so we'll have to wait and see as to where things go with that. But I think it could be something interesting to see with Supergirl. Hopefully, maybe he's over on Supergirl's, because Supergirl's Earth is going to be mostly affected to the point where nothing is left and everyone has to go live on the Earth 1, so that Supergirl can just become part of the same exact planet. Because I'd love to see the characters be able to go bounce back and forth. You could have you could have Diggle, you could have other characters, supporting cast from all these shows mix and match. I'd love to see supporting cast members from the Batgirl women show job on Supergirl and vice versa. And then a character could go from Supergirl to Flash to Arrow for the next season, but that'll be actually won't be Arrow, because Arrow's going to be done after the crossover. So that'll be interesting to see as to where things go with those characters that are left. But having everything on the same Earth can make the crossovers and little crossovers. For example, when Diggle goes to Flash, just him, he brings Argus and stuff and he has fun there. Or when Felicity just goes over to Flash, or Cisco just goes over to Arrow, something like that. Those are interesting crossovers that kind of develop the characters and strengthen the connection between the shows and develop these characters a bit more when they're guesting on other shows. And I think that's something that we'd like to be able to do a bit more often, by including Supergirl into the mix, by having her being on the same Earth is definitely going to be fun to see all that. So let me know what you think, guys, about this season in the comments below. What do you think about it? Where do you think things are going? And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
I'm Captain America, here to talk to you about one of the most valuable traits a soldier or student can have.
Subscribing.
Sometimes is the key to victory. Sometimes it leads to very little, and it seems like it's not worth it. And you wonder why you waited so long for something so disappointing. How many more of these?
You're still here.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Peace.
It's over.